Welcome, folks. 3 podcast episodes in 3 days. It's been a very exciting week. My name is Taiwai, non-binary Aero Aspec PhD student by day, and ace activist and content creator by night. Today we have the fantastic, wonderful honor of chatting with the one and only Cosmic Quartz, aka Quartzy.
Thank you so much for having me, Tai. I appreciate it so much. It's a huge honor, and I love what you do on the podcast. It helps so many people learn, self-identify, and just feel more comfortable normalizing discussions around Arrow and Ace conversations, which I think is so super important. So thank you again for having me.
Of course, I've been so excited to chat with you again. I know that
Hmm.
it's been too long, so I'm so glad we were finally able to chat again.
I know, and also 3 episodes back to back though, that's incredible. Definitely get some snaps for you. I don't know if you can hear them because this mic has like a pretty decent sound dampening, but
I
snaps for
heard them.
you.
Thank you.
Thank gosh.
Next week, I've scaled it back to 2. So
Okay.
I'm taking a couple days off, partly because I
Rejuvenate
know
those
that,
spoons.
yeah, because I know that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday are going to be absolutely awful with like mid 90 Fahrenheit without the humidex and feels like 100 Fahrenheit with the humidex. So it's
Yeah, no.
not going to be a time to stream, not with a hot PC in the room.
100%. I get it. As it is, I've got my door open right now because I just couldn't. I was like, I needed some amount of breeze with like a fan in because it's rough out in here in these waters. So make sure you're staying hydrated, chat. Get an ice
Absolutely.
cold cup of water. I'm gonna take a sippy sip of my water
100%.
and stay
Absolutely.
cool.
So, I know we've talked about this in the past, but just to remind folks, kind of, you know, exploring, aspec identities and coming to grips with
Mhm.
one's asexuality, one's demisexuality, demi-romanticism, can be very difficult to pinpoint, owing to the fact that it can be difficult to identify what attraction is and what kinds of attraction you are not experiencing. And so
Mhm.
for many folks, their aspec identity is one of the last things they come to realize.
That
And
definitely makes sense, honestly, because it was for me. So
absolutely.
I'm not beating the allegations.
No. So you've alluded to this. What made it, tricky for you?
One of the things that made it tricky for me, in general, was growing up, I didn't really have a lot of emotional support. So having that option to self-identify and self-explore wasn't necessarily there. I mean, it's just something that I don't think my parents were taught themselves. So I don't know if they necessarily knew how to teach it to me. Like they didn't even have the tools or language to kind of figure out their own identities in life. So like it just wasn't really an option for me. I'm also I mean, if you know me, you know I'm also late discovered autistic and ADHD, which was like a huge aspect also of my identity that wasn't something I learned until I was 27. I'm 31 now. So I spent most of my life just kind of fumbling through, making a lot of mistakes and being a little bit of a people pleaser. I always valued other people's emotions above my own as like a self-defense mechanism. And the other part is just I didn't have the language. Even, I mean, as far back as when I was in high school, I was in my, what was it called? I think it was just like at the time, because I graduated high school, I'm going to date myself in 2012. But it was just like the Gay Straight Alliance. That's what it was called in in my high school. I was like treasurer for that club, so I was a really good ally at the time. And I didn't know why back then, but I always felt most comfortable around fellow queer folk. And at the time, I was just like, yeah, I want to uplift and support and be there and advocate for other queer people. But I'm straight though. Like it just didn't seem like a an option for me because it was never told to me. It was never explored around me. Um, but as I grew up and as I kind of like developed into adulthood, I never had any relationships really in high school, so I didn't have much to go off of. I realized that relationship after relationship, like something kind of wasn't like meshing. And we can get into a little bit more of that, otherwise I'll just be yapping the whole time. But yeah, there were issues in like all of my relationships because I was just forcing myself to fit like this mold that I thought was expected of me, and it never really felt aligned, and I wasn't really sure why for a while.
I can totally relate to that. I tried dating for a bit. Every, time I tried to date, it would be like, yeah, I kind of just like being friends. And when it started to get more, anything that even started to go in that direction, I was just like, but
Yeah.
I kind of like just hanging out and,
Like, no.
chilling. I don't
Like,
really
get
want it to
away
go
a little
anywhere
bit.
else.
Yeah. Like let's stay here where it's comfy, and then
Yeah.
like, it crosses that boundary and you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm suddenly very uncomfortable and I don't know why. And I also
Mm-hmm.
don't know how to say that
Mm-hmm.
necessarily. I don't know. Everyone's got a different trauma response, but for me, I have like the freeze and the fawn trauma response, so I have a hard time like speaking up in that
Yeah.
moment, which doesn't help.
And for me, I just also didn't really understand what was going on for me. I
Hmm.
obviously was told, this is what you do, this is what you're expected to do, this is, what you should, you're going to be going down this path. And for me, it was just like,
Yeah.
why is this not working for
Like
me?
why? Yeah, you're told one option essentially, and that's it. It's either that or nothing. Um and if you do choose like the nothing, it usually comes with a lot of like negative social connotations, like not
Hmm.
only just from your peers, but also from like adults in your life, family members. Like they are always having that pressure placed on you to be like, well, one day you're gonna have to suck it up and do it, Like
Yeah.
so
Heard that far, far too many times. It's
I'm
so,
sure.
so incredibly frustrating. And as Chris said, I totally feel that people cross over that boundary, and I'm like, why you got to go ruin a good thing? Absolutely.
I know. Do you know how many times, and I don't know if this is just like part of the autism for me too, is like a lot of the times when I'm really passionate about a special interest, I'll get really excited about it. Like my whole face lights up. I start or like I'll do these like stims that people think I'm like flirting with them, right? Like I twirl my hair a lot as a stim. It just always happens. I bite the inside of my cheek a lot as a stim. It just happens when I'm nervous or anxious or just like really excited. And a lot of the times, especially working in customer service environments where I have to like have a mask on and be like very smiley, professional, customer service face, people would mistake that as like me flirting with them. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I just really like Splatoon. Okay. Like, I swear it's not about that. Especially when I worked at GameStop, this would happen a lot. And people would think like I was trying to ask them out on dates without asking them out. And I'm like, no, I'm just trying to sell you a pre-order, my guy, I swear. But yeah, it's definitely tough with all of the different layers of expectation that society places on us and the nuance of not really understanding why you don't like what's happening in the moment, but knowing on some level that you're not okay with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to figure out why my mic is so low. I literally have it on full, and I cannot get it to go any higher. Like,
Oh no.
I have no idea. So what I'm going to do is I've lowered Quartzy down a little bit, and we'll see what we can do. One
I
of
can
these
also pull
days,
my mic away a little bit because
one
it's
of
kind
these
of
days, I
close.
just need to get a new mic, but this NB here is broke AF because all my money either goes to the absurdly expensive rents or it goes to the university. And it
And
doesn't
yeah,
leave me
especially in the
much to do
PhD
anything.
program,
Yeah, it doesn't leave me
I can
much to get
imagine.
new equipment, so we're stuck with this mic for a while, unfortunately.
Do you have a throne?
I do. I just never talk about it because I feel
Drop your
awful.
throne right now, please. I'm requesting. Listen, Ty does so much work on these podcasts, y'all. It's it doesn't just happen out of thin air, and I know Ty would never ask or say it, so I'm gonna say it. If you have any little bit that you can contribute to spare, maybe check out the throne, maybe just consider, maybe just bookmark it, even if you can't now, just bookmark it for later. Anyway, sorry. Subtle plug over.
There's the throne, but I didn't drop it. Quartzy asked me to.
I did it. I'll take full responsibility.
Thank you. Very, very kind.
Empress is trying to drop the Ko-fi over here. Because honestly, I know a lot of people. I know this is a side tangent, and I know you did. I'm sorry. But a lot of people who do podcasts will have like a Patreon or a Ko-fi to help fund
Yeah.
the project. So I don't know. I
So
don't
again,
if
I
this
do have a
helps.
Kofi, but I never talk about it because again, too like, it just feels I feel like no, I can't be asking people,
Not the self promo. No. Well,
right?
I'm asking, and it looks like you don't even have a command set up.
No, that's how bad of a content creator I am.
No. Is
It's
it
on my
just
panels though.
ko-fi.com/ okay.
Yeah, it's on my
It's
panels.
it's on Ty's panels, Empress, if you're interested. And thank you, Lore Curator, for letting
Very
us
kind.
know.
Yeah.
Go
That
fund Ty.
go fund my PhD.
No, it's tough out here. The economy is awful everywhere you look.
Mhm.
Exactly. Ty is a great advocate and has helped me learn so much about myself, which we'll get into. But I definitely recommend if you're able to helping out because Ty spreads so much value, knowledge, awareness, wisdom, and also uplifts other Aspec creators on their platform. And I just think that if the law of equivalent exchange, if I learned anything from Full Metal Alchemist, it's that good energy being put out deserves good energy being put back
Aw,
in.
that's far too
Yeah.
kind. Thank you so
It's the
much.
truth. Take a sip of my coffee.
So on the kind of on the theme of kind of navigating resources and, coming
Mhm.
to better understand your identity, what resources, what communities have you found helpful to come to, better understand your ASPEC identity?
Of course. Um, well, first off, I think the first time I ever really engaged with the Aero Ace community as a whole, like specifically and independently from the queer community in general, was through the Aero Ace raid train that Shania hosted last year.
Oh,
And
hell
if
yeah.
I'm remembering correctly, I believe that's where we met.
We did indeed.
Yeah, yeah. So happy 1 year friendiversary because
Absolutely.
yeah, that's so cool. And I didn't even realize that the community was as large as it was.
Mm-hmm.
And it was it was really cool to meet like directly with other not only just queer individuals but streamers and creators because I feel like there's even more similar understanding between us in the Twitch community than like queers who maybe don't stream or aren't content creators because there's like that whole separate added layer of difficulty of like being a creator and the struggles behind that um and having your own community and stuff like that. So having that opportunity was huge and I love that. And Shania is amazing for hosting that and putting that together and connecting so many Aero Ace gems together for that. Another great community that I would say is definitely the Fruities stream team. That was where I met a lot of other incredible people. And then somehow, even though it wasn't necessarily an ACE-spec specific community, but I did meet a lot of ACE individuals through Spoon Platoon, which was awesome. It was unexpected, but it was definitely a treasure. Like I met Kaber through Spoon Platoon, and well, technically I met Kaber through the Aero Ace Raid Train too, but we kind of connected deeply through Spoon Platoon. Um, And so those three communities, most of all, I think, have really helped me out. I'm still new to the Twitch Pride Guild, and I get a little Noibat nervous because there's like so many awesome people in there. So I haven't necessarily engaged quite as much as I would like, but I'm getting out of my shy shell because I know there's also a corner of Aspec people there as well that I would like to
Absolutely.
connect with too. And
And
then also, most importantly, the List podcast, genuinely,
oh,
like,
thank you so
and your
much.
channel. Yeah.
Somebody
Mhm.
just really kindly contributed $25 towards a new mic.
Oh
Wow. That's
my gosh.
amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That is
That
so
goes so
kind.
stinking much. See, kindness
Aw,
begets
that's
kindness.
far too kind. Y'all are breaking
Oh,
me.
thank you so, so much. I appreciate you, whoever sweet bean that I definitely think I know who it is, but I'm not gonna out.
Aw,
I appreciate
you're
you.
far too kind. Thank you so much.
Aw. Yay! New mic on the way. We gotta look into options for you and
Yeah, figure
see
out
what works.
what one's gonna work.
Yeah.
I'd love to be able to look into something like an XLR mic because apparently they're great kind of for podcast style streams,
Yeah.
but also all the equipment required for that and the expense is an issue. So there's that as well. So got to think about
Mm-hmm.
it. It's just for some reason, like I literally have my microphone settings turned up to max, and this is as loud as it'll get.
I mean, it's tough because I'm not hearing what chat is hearing. You sound lovely on my end, right? On through Discord. But I will say it again, it could be because of how close I have this mic. So I can like pull it away. But I want the RGB,
Like I
like the
can do
RGB. I'm
this,
like,
and then people can hear me, but I literally have to have it right next to my face.
right, right. Um, but yeah, like I'm happy to if you want, just as an aside, like we can do some mic researching
Yeah, that
together
would be
if you'd
great. I
like.
would love to. Thank you.
Yeah.
Still
Mm-hmm.
got to figure out what one would work best for me. I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
Blue Yeti's done great, but at a certain point, it's
That's what
hitting
I
its
had
limits.
before this too.
It's hitting its limits
Yeah.
at this point.
It's getting old. I don't want to admit it, and I'm not ageist by any means, but it's served its time. We'll
Absolutely.
say. Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
we've hinted at the fact that, you know, asexuality is very invisible. It's very hidden.
Hmm.
It's so hard to find those communities. And, if it wasn't for the Ace and Arrow raid train where I met you, where I met Caber, where I met Shania, and
Hmm.
so many other people who are hanging out here today. I'm looking at you, Chris Hangry, as well. On that raid train, if it wasn't for that, this podcast would never, ever have happened.
Wow.
So
That's
that
amazing.
is like one of the major reasons that I was able to start this podcast was that Ace and Arrow Raid Train last
Wow.
summer.
The ripple effects. That's so
Absolutely.
cool.
And we've met so many amazing folks through it.
Yeah.
Had so many fantastic chats as a result. But
Hmm.
it's otherwise, as I say every episode, how does one find an ace? How does one find an arrow in the wild? It's not easy. It really don't be.
I don't think I've met anyone in my personal life that is. So if I wasn't streaming on Twitch, if I wasn't part of this like micro community already, and then like happened to find Shania's train link forum, I believe it was on Twitter at the time, because it was like before the boom of Blue Sky. But yeah, I don't think I would have this community even still to this day myself. And it's not really talked about so much in media, in IRL, even among queer spaces as a whole. The A is often like, I mean, it's at the very end, and it also is lumped in with, and I'm not upset by any means because it's all valid, but like aromanticism, asexuality, and agender all kind of like put together. And then there's also that group of folk who think that A means ally. So it's kind of tough. I feel like in general, we don't necessarily get as much representation as some of the other identities within the queer umbrella as well. And even among that, there's a lot of like discourse internally over what is valid as an asexuality umbrella. There's like the sex repulsed aces, the gray aces, demisexual, which is what I consider myself. And it can be really difficult to feel accepted or find that self acceptance if you are just so confused and don't even know that it's an option, right? Also, hi,
100%.
Asha.
Welcome on in. Another lovely friend that we found through the Ace and Arrow Raid Train. Also a huge fan of Pokemon as well.
The emote that I made for Asha.
Aww.
The little demi spoon.
Yeah, so demisexuality very much part of the Ace umbrella as much as
Hmm.
certain people on social media would like you not to think so. Don't don't listen to that horrible post because it's wrong.
Hmm.
Asexuality is a spectrum of experiences that share
Yeah.
the common theme of a relationship to sex that is different from allosexuality. There's a common thread through all these micro labels:
Hmm.
demisexuality, gray sexuality, agosexuality. All these micro labels all share a common theme, which is that it's not allosexual. There's something very different about these experiences.
Yeah, and thank you for really spreading that awareness and acceptance. You know, even with someone like you and I have different like sub micro identities within the ACE umbrella. So like the fact that there has been so much like support and acceptance from you like really has helped like me feel more valid and comfortable talking about it. So it is really important to like thank you for, normalizing these conversations and these sub aspects within the ASPEC identity.
Yeah, unfortunately, it happened a couple weeks ago. Fortunately, some real big content creators, including ASTAT Advice, also who else? Fluently Aspec and a bunch of other people jumped on it right away and said, "No, you're wrong. Get out. We're
Mm-hmm.
not listening to this."
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so fortunately, there's been a lot of support rallying against these sorts of kinds of erasure, but they
Mm-hmm.
still happen far too often.
Yeah.
Like, what the heck? At a time when the queer community is being attacked from all different kinds of directions, why do we want to try to erase the community even more from within the aces
Yeah.
even?
We're supposed to be on the same team, y'all. Yeah. It's really difficult. There's a lot. I mean, I don't know if we necessarily want to get into it, but there was, this Ace Pride Day in and of itself, that whole thing that blew up on social media, with a certain someone who we know is like anti, trans, is now also very vocally anti-ace as well. And I had made a post on Twitter, which that was my first mistake. But I made a post on Twitter, just celebrating, happy Ace Pride Day. Like this is the first full year because I was still discovering things last year during Pride Month, and the Arrow Ace Raid Train was like the first event that I ever was like publicly out as like, yeah, I'm Demi. And so this was kind of like my 1 year anniversary of being like out as Ace. and I was just making a post to celebrate. And I got a lot of hate comments on that post, like 20 plus. It somehow ended up on the wrong side of Twitter, which is pretty much all of Twitter these days.
Hmm.
And yeah, there were comments of like people saying that I was narcissistic, I just wanted attention, I had a mental health issue, I just and it was all kind of spurred on by one particular
Yep.
person
It
making
was
a
all
post
the
and kind of,
same bullshit
yeah,
that they were saying.
calling to action others, unfortunately. So if people don't think that the ace community is oppressed and the ace community gets targeted, I just like it does happen. It absolutely
Absolutely.
does happen.
And the fact that, you know, folks tell aces that they're not oppressed is oppression in itself, denying
Mm,
us the lived experience. We wouldn't be lying about this. Why would we go
hmm.
about trying to tell some made up story? This is our real story.
This is our lives, yeah.
Exactly. One of the theories as to why there seems to be a lot of hatred towards both trans identity and ace identity is the fact that
Hmm.
both of them are against the narrative that everybody is obviously cishet, but also both those identities could theoretically be seen as something that goes against procreation in a way. That's the
Mm.
dark, disgusting side of it. And that's where I think a certain sect of the transphobes, the acephobes, are coming from, is this dark, twisted mentality that it's somehow pushing against this narrative that we need to expand the population. It's really fucked up.
And like what's so wild about that is the way we are right now as a society with our level of population, like we don't need, we genuinely don't need to be procreating on this level, on this scale. We don't have enough food to support us all. We don't have enough resources. We don't even have enough homes to support us all. So, the mentality that humans have to just keep populating and growing and multiplying to keep the human race alive. Like, we're not even doing a good job of keeping the human race alive with the amount of people that exist on it currently. So it really just tries to fuel this like capitalist model of like creating more people to work more jobs to make the rich people richer. That's really what it's all about, unfortunately. And yeah, I agree with you 100% how
Mm-hmm.
a big part of the problem is that these sort of identities do challenge that belief, and I think that's also why like queer platonic relationships get really negatively
Yeah,
targeted as well and invalidated
exactly.
because like if somebody wants to get married as a queer platonic partner, I'm pretty sure that like they're not afforded the same amount of like benefits or resources. I don't know the exact logistics behind the law of it, but some people don't even want to get married but they've like lived together for like 30 plus years and they are life partners. But if they aren't officially married and don't have that document on paper, they get no support from
No,
anybody,
absolutely not.
And that's not okay. That's not
No,
cool.
it's so messed up. There is
Hmm.
something called common law, but the whatever that, what the rules are around common law, I think varies, by in jurisdiction. And
Mm,
I don't think many queer platonic partnerships would meet the requirements to be common law, because essentially common law is essentially marriage without the paper, is generally how I see it.
yeah.
So yeah, queer platonic partnerships are not seen as valid relationships in the law, and that means that you don't get the same benefits afforded to you by the tax system in terms of legal recourse and all of that sort of thing.
Mm,
Because the only relationship that the law sees as valid is the one that is associated with the white picket fence, with the uh, 1.5 kids and everything else. And those
Yeah.
relationships that don't fit that narrative are not valid, therefore.
And like, I don't know, but not to make blanket statements because of course everybody's different, but do you know how many kids like after they're born are just neglected and abused, right? Like not even treated properly or raised properly because the parents were just having kids to have kids and not having kids for the right reasons or not even necessarily ready to have kids, but they did it because of the societal expectation and pressure. Like we're creating so much trauma in the world by just going with the flow without like questioning, hey, is this actually right for us as a whole? Um, that I think it's more harmful than helpful. And also thank you, Laura. I appreciate it. I could drop the name of the artist who makes them.
They're super
Uh,
cute, but
Thank
also
you.
100% agree with Laura's comment that, us queer folks, us trans folks are just always passing along that same $5 bill over and over again to make
Mm-hmm.
ends meet. So I totally understand that. I've been there.
It's true. We gotta support each other because, as a whole, we're not getting supported, but we have so few resources between us that it's honestly, it's a wonder we're able to get by at all. It's like, and a lot of us aren't able to get
No,
by. I mean, I don't y'all know a lot of you know my situation, so I'm really grateful for the community online because I genuinely I don't know where I would be without everyone, honestly, online that I've met. So thank you.
the online community has done so much for me,
Hmm.
not only as a content creator, but to
As a human,
as a whole, better
yeah.
understanding my own queer identity, giving me that space to escape the dark times of the PhD.
Which is
Have
daunting in and of
Yeah,
itself, I can only imagine.
have that space to talk about queer issues that I don't feel safe talking about at the university oftentimes because of, I won't go into the reasons, but you get it, right?
Yeah, there's just that expectation and especially as a non-binary person having to
Hmm.
like function in a professional career setting. I can only
Yeah.
imagine how difficult that is to not really be able to be your authentic self in that aspect as well, right?
Yeah, I was, today it was too warm to wear the one kind of femme aligned, femme presenting long sleeve dress shirt I have. So
Hmm.
I went and like begrudgingly put on a mask presenting
Mm,
short sleeve collared shirt, and I just felt so gross the entire day wearing it because I literally had nothing else to wear that would meet business casual requirements of my
yeah.
exam proctoring position.
No, that's so unfair. I don't understand like if as long as you're dressing in a way that's not provocative or too revealing in a professional setting because like that I totally understand, right? But if you're dressing for what's comfortable for you, like I think that there shouldn't be such strict rules. It feels so outdated and so like traditional. I don't know. I feel like I would have hoped we would have evolved past that, but there's still so many expectations around that. That's just really unfair to deal with. And
Absolutely.
when I had my last like full-time job, I had a very strict uniform that I had to abide by and it wasn't necessarily awful like in terms of like a gender identity, but it was awful in terms of sensory issues as an autistic folk. I had to wear like jeans all the time essentially, and that was miserable. I'm a huge leggings and like dress pant or like slacks for comfort, right? And that wasn't something that was necessarily accepted. So anything really that goes against the societal standard or societal mold is just kind of viewed negatively or ostracized or shunted out, unfortunately. Oh,
Absolutely. Thank you
Subby.
so much, Anonymous, for gifting that sub to Chris Hangry.
Yeah.
Thank you so, so much. And one of
Also,
the
Asha, I love that you paint your nails though, by the way.
I do too when I get the opportunity, but I've been so busy this
Yeah.
month, I've literally had no time to do it.
It does take time to let everything
I
dry, which
know. And I
stinks.
just don't have, I've literally had
Yeah.
no time on the weekends to do anything because I've been so busy. And so I had wanted to paint my nails with the NB colors this month, but I literally had no time.
I wanted to do the ace nails and I don't have white nail polish. I'm like,
I
dang it.
have all the colors to do both the
No, that's
NB
even
and the
worse.
Ace, and I
Just
just
not the
didn't have
time.
time. I was like, "Where's the
No.
time?" I'm
You need to get, they make these
no.
like, and this is like a whole other thing in and of itself. Who has the money for this? But they make these sticker, like nail
Hmm.
sticker things that when I did have the money and the means, it was very helpful for saving time. It was just like a sticker that you put on your nail and then
Hmm.
put like a top coat over it and it dries a lot quicker. But I don't have the money for that these days. So, aw, hi, Hugster Doug. Hello, Daku. I
Welcome, Duke.
appreciate
Good to
it.
see you.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, Kuba paints his nails. I love it so much. I
Yeah,
think it's one of my favorite things. I love
absolutely.
and also his hair's dyed pink right now. I
Hell
love
yeah,
challenging any sort of gender expectation. But
absolutely.
there's also just so much and this is like another side note tangent. I'm sorry, my ADHD is going all over the place. But like there may be people who are cis, right? Who
Hmm.
still enjoy painting their nails and dyeing their hair
Exactly.
and even wearing makeup, but then they get classified as, maybe non-binary or trans even just because they're dressing a certain way and that's not cool either. People
No,
could just be who they are and it doesn't have to mean anything. It
no,
absolutely can, but it doesn't have to. So, hell yeah, exactly, Baba.
absolutely. It's
hmm
rather unfortunate that you get, you know, told that
Who you are by
who you
others,
are by
right?
others. The only person that can tell you who you are is you. You know your lived experience better than anybody ever will.
Period. Full stop. Oh, listen, anytime you do your nails blue next time, definitely share it with me. I'd love to see. I love when anyone paints their nails, regardless of gender.
Yeah, if you ever do it, pop it in the Aspec podcast
Mm-hmm.
Discord. I would love to see them.
Mm-hmm. And once I
Uh,
get white nail polish, I'm gonna be doing the
Hell
ace/demi
yes.
colors, so
Hell yes.
I have the purples for now, but I didn't have the rest, so but yeah, yeah. Oh, black, blues, and greens mostly. Peak taste, Asha.
Love those colors.
hmm
Absolutely. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today, Chris Hangry.
hmm
Go go to work. Have a good shift. Thank you so
Yes.
much again for hanging out with us. I see the blue bias.
I definitely don't also have a blue bias. What? I was gonna do my normal blue makeup today, but I was like, no, let me do some purple for the ace theme. This was the
speaking
most purple shirt I have, which is really pink, but
speaking of another person we met during the Ace and Arrow raid train,
Busby!
fellow Ace Spec themselves. Welcome on in,
Yes.
Busby.
We
So many
stand
folks.
Busby.
Absolutely.
hmm
Don't forget to bite some fucking ankles. I love that.
It's really funny too because the last time I was on this podcast with you, I remember talking about how it was like so new for me to be talking about this stuff and I was like, yeah, I only just recently started fully accepting and using like fey femme pronouns and being open about my demisexuality. And I was very single at the time, and I was like, I don't know if anyone's gonna really like accept me as my authentic self. And it funny enough, like Kuba was in that episode, like in chat, watching and learning. And we were friends at the time, and I think it was like maybe a month or two after that, we kind of realized that, we did have like a bond more than friends. And yes. And I think it's really cool to know that there are people out there who will accept you for your authentic self. And Kuba also realized that he was also demisexual, and it helped him figure out a lot of stuff too. From just being in the chat during our last episode together and learning about, demisexuality and the nuances of that, and just needing that strong connection in order to feel um, able, comfortable enough, safe enough to explore those options. Um, and since then, I'm learning, right, that it's also and the same for me with like romantic as well, because I can't just be romantic with anyone either. And at first I thought it was like I was like, well, it's just a gender thing. Like I'm open to all genders, but I just need time, right? Because of the demisexuality. But no, turns out I need time because of the demi-romanticism as well. Like I wouldn't be able to just like woo somebody romantically even right off the gate. And when I say like months, like me and Kuba were just friends platonically for 9 months. Um, before I even like considered, I had like an artistic aesthetic. Like I was like, oh, he's cute, but I can think that about a lot of people, and that doesn't necessarily mean anything else. Um, but it really wasn't until like developing that strong emotional bond and feeling like deeply understood at a soul level, um, that I even considered it a possibility. And now Kuba and I are celebrating our actually, in 3 days, it'll be our 9 month anniversary, which is wild. But yeah, so thank you, Ty, for help
Aw.
facilitating that acceptance for us.
I just try to, tell, through my story, I've tried to share my
Hmm.
experiences and create this space because for me, these sorts of spaces were so instrumental for me coming to
Hmm.
figure out who I was. And, it was the uh, Ace and Arrow group that I'm now a co facilitator of that was so instrumental in me coming to understand my own identity, my
Hmm.
understanding of, before that group, I didn't even know what a QPR was and that I would be interested theoretically in that sort of
Yeah.
type of relationship. So,
One of my best friends has been in a QPR for about 6 years now, and they do live together. They've settled into a really lovely routine and everything. And but if I didn't know her, I wouldn't have known anybody, right? And she has an online friend, and she lives like on the West Coast, but she's always been a great example of a success for that in my life. So I'm really glad to know that it can exist healthily. And it's not just like because I feel like it feels like a fairy tale situation, right? Where people hear about it, but they don't necessarily see it so much like in their day to day, because I don't know, a lot of people are probably scared to be open about their QPRs or explore that, because it is still like that much more stigmatized, I believe, than even like ace relationships. Not to quantify, right? But I don't really see it as much. So I
no,
think it's important you know, to recognize that those options are just as valid. And for those of you who
absolutely.
don't know, a QPR is just a queer platonic relationship. So
Well,
it's basically like a life partner that you can go through life with without
well, it
having
can be a bunch of different things.
Okay, sorry.
No
You're the
worries.
expert.
I'm no expert, but it can be whatever. It's kind of it's something that's neither purely platonic but also not romantic in nature. There's no one
Mm-hmm.
way to have a QPR.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that it typically is a little bit more emotionally
Invested.
involved, yeah, invested than a typical platonic friendship would be in a Western European context, North American context.
Mm-hmm.
But there, it doesn't necessarily mean a life partner per se. Like I know folks that
Okay.
have been in short-term QPRs. Actually, the person I was talking to last night talked about the fact they were in a QPR, um,
Hmm.
and they found a lot of enjoyment and cuddles through it. But at a certain point, they said, "All right, I've had my fill," and
Mm.
it kind of fell apart. They're still friends with the person, but so QPRs can exist in a variety of different ways. It's just one of the key features of them is that they're basically non-traditional in terms of the way that they're structured.
Right. That makes sense. Thank you for explaining.
No worries. And if you would like a much better, more complete definition of a QPR, go check out Megan Sandor's video. Uh, they do an absolutely fantastic job of
Mm.
describing the differences and the overlaps between polyamory, relationship anarchy, and queer platonic partnerships or relationships, which I've linked in the chat there. But yeah,
Thank you for
that's
linking that.
no
Yeah.
worries. Definitely recommend checking that out. But yeah, I mean, one of the things I also came to learn from this support group I now run is relationship anarchy and the non-hierarchical relationship structure um, that relationship anarchy takes. So it's anti-hierarchical relationship philosophy. It says no one relationship is more important than another relationship because they
Mm.
all contribute unique aspects to your life. It's kind of the idea of it. And it also says you decide what the relationship looks like, not society. Fuck what society has to say about that relationship. You decide what it looks like.
Take the power back.
Exactly.
Hmm.
So communication's important. Being explicit about what the boundaries of that relationship are is a huge part of that. But I really like this relationship anarchy philosophy because I think many parts of it lend itself well to the kinds of relationships that we're looking for in Aspec communities,
Hmm.
in that they are not traditional in the way that a typical allosexual, amatonormative relationship looks like.
Mm.
So, by the fact that we're already saying, hey, wait a minute, these relationships are not what we are looking for, I think a lot of people are, kind of drawn to the alternative aspects of the relationship anarchy philosophy because we're already challenging societal norms around relationships to start with.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know that this isn't necessarily A-spec specific. There are plenty of people who don't, in even allo relationships necessarily enjoy a lot of public PDA, but I feel like there is that expectation in many relationships where if you are in a relationship, you need to be displaying some sort of physical affection in front of others. And that might not be something that you're comfortable with doing, right? That might be something that feels a little bit more private for you, or maybe you don't even do it at all. Maybe you express affection in different ways that isn't physical, and I think that's super valid too. I mean, I know for me, I'm not somebody who definitely like I'm not somebody who wants to be all over my partner because I like, especially if I'm out with others, I want everyone to feel equal. Um, in my engagement with them, like I want everyone to know that they're loved and appreciated equally. So, um, there's the aspect of society that might also invalidate people who are in relationships like that and quantify like, oh, well, do you guys care about each other that much? Because we don't see you displaying physical affection as much or as frequently or as, as we expect it to be seen. So there's that level of invalidation that comes with it, like, oh, well, you guys aren't in a real relationship. Or, I mean, for example, me and Kuba are long distance. And I feel like there's also a lot of invalidation around that as well, that we can't have like a close, intimate bond just because we live very far apart. Um, but no, they're like, out of all my relationships, the ones that I've had in person, like just being with Kuba has been my absolute like most fulfilling, most rewarding relationship. And it is because he does accept me for who I am. He utilizes my fae pronouns, which is something I never thought like, and I never even had to ask. He just did it on his own. Like, and he says fae to his parents and everything too and stuff. And it's just like, it has allowed me to feel so much more confident and comfortable in exploring my own gender identity and my authentic, like, presentation. And I just think that that's not something that anybody has ever been able to offer me in my life previously. So I think it's really important not to judge other people's relationships based on what you see, and realize that there's a lot more that goes into it that you might not, be privy to, right? Yeah. Thank you for the kisses, Baba.
100% mic drop on that.
Yeah, like what if I just like Fortnite emote flirting with my partner,
Mood.
Instead instead of flirting in real life, like me and Kubo will just like Fortnite dance at each other for the entire match instead of playing the game.
That's amazing. I love that.
And then our other friend will be like, "What are you doing? Oh, you're in the house Fortnite emoting together again." Well, Storm is coming in like 20 seconds, so. And we're like, that's okay, we'll die here together. Yeah.
That's amazing.
I saw this post on Twitter and it was like, I've loved you in every universe. And it was like just them like in like Minecraft together and like every single video game together that you could play as. And I'm like, that's beautiful. I love that. Yeah. I don't know where we were at, by the way, in terms
That's
of the
okay. We've been talking about,
we went all over.
I mean, the thing is that a lot of these questions are interrelated, and that's kind of the point.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about the invisibility of asexuality and how it's difficult to, come to understand it, but also to find other folks in the community, and also the invisibility that goes along with navigating Aspec relationships, and how unique and also difficult it can be to navigate it when society's telling you from every which direction that no, this is wrong, what the hell are you doing?
Mm-hmm. I will say, like, even now, my dad is still very much so like, when are you having kids type beat, and I'm like, I'm sorry, just because you're getting older, right? Like,
Yeah.
that doesn't that doesn't mean anything for me,
No.
you know?
No.
And I'm sorry. I'm sorry to be that generational cycle ender, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I would be a great, if I'm gonna be quite honest, I don't think I would be a great parent. Like, um, I have a lot of time blindness issues. Like, I think I'm a lovely cat parent. But I think that's all that I can really do, and I think it's okay to accept that about myself. I would be an amazing aunt to
Mm-hmm.
somebody, right? Like, or I could definitely, I love kids, right? Like I love hanging out with them and exploring their imagination. I'll play D&D any day, like I'll do arts and crafts any day. But when it comes to teaching discipline and I don't know, like managing like those nuances, I think it's something that I struggle with, articulating my own emotions and regulating my own emotions. And I just don't know if that's something that I'd be able to consistently do with like as as a disabled person. And not to say disabled people can't be great parents, because they absolutely can if they choose to be, but I'm also somebody who has a lot of focus on my career right now
Mm-hmm.
with content creation and art and stuff like that. And that is where I choose to put most of my focus and spoons into, because I believe in that advocacy
Mm-hmm.
and uplifting marginalized voices and creators. And that unfortunately I don't have the spoons to do that and be a good parent. And personally, this fulfills me so much more than being a parent ever could. And I've had so many friends who aren't friends anymore say to me, well, that's because you're not a parent. And the second you have a kid, that'll change and you'll see things differently. And like, you wouldn't understand because you're not a mom. And I'm like, I don't have to give birth to understand that it's not for me, you know? I don't think that's fair to say.
No.
And I don't think that my life is any less valid or
No.
fulfilling just because I choose not to have kids, you know? Like, people always love to say that I'm not going to be fully fulfilled until I have a kid. And I
That
don't
is
know,
so
like,
wrong.
I think my art is my child, right? My
Absolutely.
son is Clancy. I birthed him. He is my biological son, okay? Like, slash joking, obviously, but that's enough for me. Like, and I'm not settling by saying that. I actually wholeheartedly mean it. And when I'm not believed when I say that, when people think they know me better, like we were saying earlier, like nobody knows you better than yourself. And if you don't think that's something that you want, there is nothing wrong with that. Please let me and Tai remind you, there's nothing wrong with that if you don't want kids.
I am perfectly happy with, having these communities around me, creating
Yeah.
spaces like this. This is what fulfills me. This is what brings me joy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need kids. I don't want kids. This
Because
is
if
what
we
I
had kids, we
enjoy.
wouldn't be able to
No,
put as much
exactly.
focus in this.
So
Yeah.
I'm completely with you on that one. Absolutely.
So that's my personal relationship anarchy, because on the surface I think Kuba and I are very like straight presenting and straight
Hmm.
passing. So um
But it's a very
that's like
different
my
relationship than a
yes.
traditional heterosexual relationship.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's just it means a lot to have these spaces where we can talk about that, because like for example, my dad's girlfriend, the other day I was saying, oh, my partner Kuba. And she was like, "Oh, you mean like your girlfriend?" And I'm like, "No, I mean my partner." And she was like, "Well, what is their gender?" And I was like, "Well, first of all, that really isn't your business and shouldn't matter." But, I explained and they were like, "Well, why did you say the word partner?" And I'm like, "Because if only certain people are using the word partner, then it defeats the purpose of the use of partner."
Hmm.
Like,
Exactly.
honestly. And I shouldn't have to explain myself. Like,
Oh, it's so frustrating.
oh my gosh. Yeah, it was really frustrating, but I'm not gonna stop, using the terms that I use in the phrases that I do. I'm never gonna stop, because that is why I normalize it. And even before I utilized fey pronouns, I put she her in my bio, like again, if only the people who are identifying a certain way, like using those pronouns in their bio, then that doesn't help. We need all of us to do it. We need to normalize it.
Absolutely. 100%. We are about to unfortunately run into a ad wall here. So
Rip.
we I will put us on the BRB screen and then we'll come back and chat some more. So see you back in
And
a
yes, Ghost.
absolutely. I exactly. I use partner. I use that, and I would use that over any other word, because why does it matter what their gender is?
It doesn't. It's no one's business, really.
So I reject the traditional. I would much rather use partner myself if I was in a
Mm-hmm.
relationship. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
on that note, we do have to jump to the BRB screen,
We'll be
unfortunately.
back.
Exactly, it could be a QPR. Exactly. We'll
Mm-hmm.
see ya.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see you on the other side. All right, welcome back, folks. As I said, that never happened. It was always the BRB screen. I don't know what you're talking about.
I mean, I didn't see
You
anything.
didn't see anything.
Oh, it happens.
The same thing happened yesterday. That's what Laura was talking about. It's the position of it
In
in
the
my
scenes.
OBS. Yeah,
Yeah,
scenes.
yeah,
I need to move them.
yeah. That's so funny. Oh, also thank you for putting I just saw the pinned comment. Thank you
Yeah,
for including the Pride emote pack.
definitely,
Yeah.
definitely go check out those emotes. They are awesome. They are so cute. I've got Quartzies, I've got the Arrow Ace one, and I've got uh
Banoff did this cute little
yeah, Banoff
yeah.
non-binary hug as well, which is
Oh
so
yeah,
cute.
yeah. So precious.
That one is so cute.
Busby also did one for the pack too, and I believe it was like the different flags, the
Yeah,
different pride flags, hearts, which is cute as
if I
well.
had more spaces, I would put it in there. It's just I've already
I
used
hear
up all my
ya.
spaces. And I'm like, no.
That's what Discords are for.
Right?
All of the extra, yeah. Exactly, Busby. So cute. We stand.
Yeah, those are
It's
really
okay. I don't
cute. I
even
love
have.
them.
Yeah, I love them too. I don't even have my own the Fey wings that I did.
I
I didn't
know.
even upload those to my own
I
yet.
know. I'm like right at the cap and I'm like,
Yeah.
what do I switch out?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I get it. I get it. And like once you get to a certain number of emotes, like I feel like the bar to like
Yeah, oh yeah,
unlock
it gets
more is
so much
so
harder.
high.
Yeah.
Like I need 150 sub points. I'm like,
That's
I'm not getting
wild.
that. Like,
No,
yeah, there's no
right?
way. I'm not unlocking more
It
emotes
gets very,
ever.
very difficult for sure.
Yeah.
We were
Welcome
chatting.
back, everyone.
Yeah, welcome back. We were chatting lots about, the fact that aces and arrows, challenge the societal norms around relationships. We talked about, the fact that we, both of us, have very similar views when it comes to, um, verbiage around partners and why you know, I prefer and you prefer to use the term partner to other words, put it
Hmm.
that way. And
I was happy
also,
to hear others in chat
yeah,
too
exactly.
agreeing. We love to see that.
And I totally agree with Ghost. Partner is also more inclusive because it could be a queer platonic partner.
Hmm.
It doesn't necessarily have any sort of specific meaning. It's much more inclusive to a whole host of relationships.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, huge congrats again on
Yeah,
affiliate.
congrats on
That's
affiliate.
amazing. Absolutely. So, so proud of you, Laura. That's amazing.
Exactly. Let them be confused.
Yeah, I
It's
love
not really.
confusing them.
I know. I was gonna say, like, is it bad if I want them to be confused? Because honestly, with that confusion, it does like subconsciously challenge their own internal bias,
Hmm.
right? Um, so you know, I personally love reminding them that they're not the only ones that exist in the world. Because we
Exactly.
we have to live with that every single day of our lives, knowing that we don't fit the mold.
Hmm.
And it is a privilege to not have that, knowledge every single day. So anytime
Hmm.
I get a chance to confuse a cishet is job well done for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
People are like, "Sir," I'm like, "No, you're wrong."
Actually. Is there a gender neutral term for that? Because I usually just, and I don't think this is appropriate in like professional settings, but I usually just say something like my liege, my eminence, or like something like
Yeah,
that for
people
gender
always come
neutral.
up with bizarre ones. Because everything is so binary, there isn't an
Mm-hmm.
honorific other than
Mm-hmm.
mix that really exists. And
Encompasses. Yeah.
I don't really want people just calling me mix.
Yeah. I was gonna say I know not everyone
Lord is good.
adopts that. Lord,
I
yes.
mean, eventually this will all change, and people can just refer to me as Dr. Tye.
That's so cool.
There
That
are
is
some
so
pins.
cool.
There are some pins that I will buy when I get my PhD, which says actually it's doctor, and it's got all the different gender
I love
flags.
that.
Is I will be like, yes, I can actually use this to throw it
Can I
back
call
in
you
their faces.
professor like a Pokemon professor?
Sadly, professor has a specific meaning in academia. It's like an
Dang
academic
it.
rank, but you can definitely call me doctor.
Okay. That's so cool.
Right,
Dr.
Lore?
Tye.
Secretly, so many folks are just getting their PhDs so that we don't have to be misgendered and you get the wrong honorifics used.
Mm. Comrade.
Hell
That's a
yeah!
good
That's a good one. I
one.
like that one.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll say like my eminence. For gender neutrals, like when people are like gods or goddesses, I'm like deity, you know?
Yeah,
But comrade is really good for your everyday.
it is. That's a really good one. I'll have to start using that
Hmm.
more.
Hmm.
Also, it pisses off the megas too, so
Anything. Yeah.
anything to piss them off. So we were chatting. What do you want to
Hmm.
chat about next?
Let's see. I know there was something about like media representation. I know you talk
Yeah,
about that a lot, so like we don't have to, um,
I
but
guess
I know I've talked about this. We've talked about like some of the few examples, right? Because a lot of the examples that do exist in media tend to be like kind of flat toned and kind of rely on our identity as a trope and as like their whole character as opposed to just like a portion of who they are. Um, so I think if there's anybody out there who's looking to be more inclusive, right? Like if you're writing a story or a video game or a TV show or something and you want it to be inclusive in an authentic way, the best way to do that is to consult with Aspec people or to consult with people of that identity that you're looking to include in your book. Because you'll hear perspectives and you'll learn things that you would never know otherwise. Um, and I think that's the key difference in building like an authentic connection and a realistic, fully fleshed out character versus like the flat toned robotic kind of one note characters that you might see in media. And I would love to hear if anybody else knows any representation. That way, like, I can also learn and discover something new myself. But, like, I know I talked about when you were doing this last, when I stopped by, I was like, Data from Star Trek was like one of the only examples that I know of. But unfortunately, like, it's another situation where, like, in general, he struggles with emotions. And I know that that's not every single person's experience under the A-spec umbrella. That's why, like, as a more modern example, I have to remember, I have to look up her name, but there's a character in Sex Education
I was about to
who
mention that.
is yeah, I love her so much because she loves writing. And this is the other thing, right? Like the whole connotation that like people who are ace don't enjoy like engaging in any sort of like they won't play like a sexual video game or like they won't read fanfic. Like, listen, that is also a whole nother stigma within the ace community. This one character, she writes a lot of like sex heavy fanfics and is ace herself. So I really, really love that.
As Glasses
Because
Journal said in episode 17, I hate to
yeah.
break it to you, but almost all the smutty fanfics that have ever been written were probably written by an ace person. And I was like, yes, they are.
Yes, no, literally. Like it was a way for because like I used to write many fanfics growing up for many different fandoms, and I know you know this. But like that was a really healthy way for me to explore like any aspect of like growing up and like embracing this side of myself without like feeling uncomfortable, right? Because I was able to control everything. I was able to kind of process some feelings around things. And granted, at the time, I didn't have the language to know what being ace meant, but I kind of like learned about sex in general, like through fan fiction, as silly as that might sound. And it was like a healthy way for me to do so because I didn't have to like risk my, like risk going into like situations that would have like made me uncomfortable, like physically. It kind of allowed me to explore what I may or may not like in a really like detached but still connected way, if that makes sense. I don't know. Yeah, one of the most emotional people I know. Exactly. Like I hate when media representation just like puts aspec people on like the robot spectrum. Like that's
Yeah,
not
unfortunately.
it
I know that
happens.
Yasmin Benoit was actually consulted on the sex education character, and she has spoken
Really?
out about it against it because a lot of the um, a lot of the scenes that initially were going to be included got cut after season 4, and they also,
Mm.
there's been some discussion as to whether it included or embodied harmful stereotypes around asexuality.
Wait, the scenes that remained or the scenes that got cut?
I guess the scenes that remained that
I may
says,
have to rewatch the show, honestly,
yeah,
then.
so there's been mixed feelings about it. Um,
Mm.
I know that Yasmin Benoit spoke out about the fact that it was cut, and um,
Wait,
so
so they consulted her on it and
yeah, they
then
did.
still kind of did something that went
Yeah,
against it?
yeah, to some degree.
Oh, that's so weird. Dang. Okay. Well, I might have to rewatch it because there's two shows that are very similar. There's like the Heartbreak High show, which I know does a great representation of autism with the character Quinny, and there might have been an Ace character in that show as well, or like a Demi character in that show as well that I'm thinking of.
So there's the
I don't
link
know.
there. It talks a little bit
Thank
about it.
you. I'm gonna save that for later. I'm definitely gonna save that for later. But yeah, there's definitely not enough representation in general because I think there's maybe only like three or four that I can think of off the top of my head. I will say Entrapta was mentioned in Glasses Journal's podcast episode, and I will say that is 100% a great example because she is so passionate about her special interests and the projects that she works on. Like she does not get portrayed as like emotionally flat by any means. And I do believe that she is ace like but maybe potentially demi-romantic um because there is like some connection, or it could be considered a queer platonic relationship, honestly. They don't really specifically say it, but she does develop like a very close bond with one character in the show. That could be seen either way, but it's not like explicitly stated. But I highly, I will say, like out of every show, that is probably one of the best representations that I've seen. Entrapta is like one of my favorite characters ever in a series, and I relate to her so much. She's got like a lot of like missed social cues and stuff like that too that makes it hard for her to fit in and be understood. So I think it's nice to see, and it's an animated series too. So I think it's nice to see it explored for what's considered possibly the younger generation because it is like a it's not necessarily a kid's show, but it could be, It's like one of those shows like Adventure Time where it could be marketed to a wide audience.
Absolutely. I will definitely have to check that out. What was the show called?
It's She-Ra on Netflix.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. And there's a lot of queer relationships in that show. There's like non-binary characters. One of my favorite character, Double Trouble. They're like a changeling and like canonically they them pronouns. And
Hell yeah.
they're also one of my favorite characters in the show. They're like very they're like a theater kid, so to speak. And they love acting and like portraying different characters and stuff, but it's a really great show for sure.
Definitely gonna have to check that out. Unfortunately, I've lost my Netflix access because Netflix caught on
No.
to me sharing accounts with people across the country, and now I can't get back in.
Wait, are you serious? They were serious about
Yeah,
that?
they blocked me. They said no Netflix for you.
Netflix,
Yeah,
you're
so
evil. Oh
so
my gosh.
A, I
We'll
can't
find a
afford it,
way.
and B, I don't want to pay the money
No,
just in spite because of that.
no. No. I wouldn't either. Don't worry. We'll find a way.
I
Don't
do
you
want to check
worry.
that out. I do want to check that out though.
Hmm. Yeah, yay capitalism. Yeah,
Right?
sarcasm.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I don't even pay for my own Netflix. My phone company pays for it. I'm very fortunate that it's included in my phone plan because I probably wouldn't either if it wasn't.
There are
There are
ways. There are
ways.
ways, absolutely.
Yes.
One of these days I will explore said ways.
I will say that I think we need to have more ace representation in video games.
You
You know,
absolutely do.
in the new game that just came out, Date Everything, it's, traditionally a dating sim, but one of my favorite things about it that I'm discovering is there's the option to just make friends. Like, you
Hell
don't have
yeah.
to actually date anyone in that game. You can make friends and you can make enemies as well as dating people in that game. And there are some ace people in that game specifically. Like, the front door character literally specifically says, "Love is not for me. I just want to make friends. I think that the world would be better off if people made more friends." So, and that was just one of the characters that I
Yeah.
discovered so far. So
Hell
that was
yeah.
really cool to see.
Absolutely. And I've heard Monster Prom 4 is similar in that way.
I love the Monster Prom series. I haven't gotten a chance to play 4 yet, but
It was
I
gifted to
love
me
the
recently,
series.
so I definitely want to check it out. I just
Let's
haven't literally had
go.
any time to play it yet because,
Same. I have it too, but I haven't gotten a chance to play it yet. But you are super busy, so I can only imagine trying to like carve
yeah.
out. Hopefully you get a chance to play it soon and we'll
Yeah,
touch base.
I definitely I want to add it to my next to play, but I do want to finish Echoes of Wisdom, which has sat untouched for like 2 months now.
Mm.
Um, I was gonna play Pokemon, as I said last week on the Fruities Pride train, but these
Yeah.
Joy-Cons decided to lose their ability to
Yeah.
charge, and so now they're useless. And so I had to go spend a whole
A
bunch of
stupid
money
amount
I
of
didn't
money.
want
Yeah.
to get these.
I think GameStop still, I mean, I don't know if you have EB Games, right, in Canada.
Yeah,
Um, I think they do, if my old GameStop working brain still works, as a worker, I think they do accept Joy-Cons in trade that aren't working.
I didn't even know that. So
Yes, yes. It's not as much as if they were
yeah,
working, but if you wanted to get something for it, you can. Yeah. Because I think there's ways that like they can send it to Nintendo and like they can fix it up
yeah,
on the
absolutely.
back end.
Yeah, but yeah, I definitely want to check out that. Also, some really exciting news that I shared in the uh, Aspec podcast Discord is that the um, premiere of the short series or the short film that we talked to Catherine and Katrina about. The um, my brain is like just short circuited.
No, you're
A rom
okay.
com, a rom
A
com
rom-com. Wait, what is
is coming out
that?
on the 21st. They're doing the premiere in DC. 'Cause
I
it's a
haven't heard of
DC.
this.
Yeah, so a
A
rom com
rom-com.
is a uh, it's basically a platonic meet cute that is supposedly supposed to take place in Iceland during an Icelandic winter storm, and it has a lot of aromantic and asexual representation, and it's about a platonic meet cute, and so it's really saying, so the name is both a nod to what it is and what it isn't. So
I
a
love
rom
that.
com,
That's so clever.
it's like it's a rom com, but it's also a romantic, so it's not a rom com.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. I'll definitely check that one
a rom
out.
com film.
A
I was
rom-com.
excited to see
I
on
like the
their.
play on words.
I was excited to see on their Instagram of the premiere. Let me
Hmm.
share this. So if anybody is anywhere near DC, Sunday, June 22nd at 5 p.m. will be the A Romcom film premiere. And I know the plan was originally to release it on YouTube at some point, hopefully.
Mm.
Yeah, very cheesy pun indeed. So yeah, that I'm looking forward to that coming out. I've been looking forward to that for a while since I chatted with them a while back.
That's
That was the
cool.
Coming
You got a
Back
chance to chat.
podcast after it went on hiatus during those dark
Mm-hmm.
times in November. We came
Oof.
back, and the first Welcome Back podcast was chatting with the director and the producer of a rom-com, and it was a wonderful chat. Had a really good time chatting with them.
Ty, you're so cool.
I'm just I'm just I'm just a they kind of chilling here doing their own thing. I don't I
Nah,
just
you're a cool gem. Be honest. That's awesome. You got a chance to chat with them and spread some awareness, and I will definitely be checking that out.
absolutely. Duke said, "Thanks, Quartzy. I don't know about autism with data, but fans of Big Bang Theory were let down by the creators when it stated Cooper isn't autistic.
He's not?
I guess not.
I've never actually seen the show,
Nor
so
do
like
I.
I can't really say.
I don't really know much about it because I really did not like the way they portrayed grad school in that show. Because grad
Mm.
school is nothing like
Forget
that.
the characters themselves. Their whole setting was bad.
It has a really unrealistic portrayal of how grad school operates.
And how much free time they have.
Yeah, and also just the fact that they're all working on the same project. My colleagues and I
Mm.
are working on vastly different projects.
Oh
And
wow.
it's a lot of isolation, unfortunately, because you're all doing your own thing. You get together once a week at a grad research meeting, and otherwise, if you don't happen to be in the office, you're not going to see each other for the most part.
Yeah, that's really depressing.
So I refuse to watch it because of the way that it portrays grad school, which is really unrealistic. But
Mm.
that's an argument. It's another discussion for another day.
That makes sense. But yeah, the reason I thought that Data was kind of like autistic coded is because he struggles a lot with social cues and emotional regulation and tends to get like overstimulated quite easily and kind of struggles with like interpersonal relationships. Obviously, there's like on the surface like reasons why he is because he's an android. But I just felt like it does align very closely with the autism experience. And we've talked about this before, Ty and I, but there is that overlap between it's not exclusive, but there isn't a strong overlap between neurodivergence and the Aspec umbrella potentially because of um, or contributed by some of the difficulties that we have with interpersonal relationships and kind of like self-identifying and articulating and there's a lot of overlap there. 100% not it's not 100%, but it is there.
It's not at all. We're not at all saying it's autism causes asexuality or any of that.
No,
So,
no, 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 no. There
but
just
all we're
tends to
saying is
be an
that there's a
overlap.
lot of folks in the ace and arrow community who are neurodivergent.
Mhm. Mhm.
I know so
Exactly.
many ace and arrow folks that are fellow ADHDers.
Mhm. Yeah. And I don't know. I
Yo, Mabes! I've not seen Mabes in forever. Good to see you. How are
Hello.
you doing, Mabes? Wonderful to see you.
Welcome, yeah, Duck
So
over the
good to see
rain.
you. So lovely. I absolutely love chatting with you on the podcast. It's so wonderful to see you again. How are you doing today?
All the Ditto AC
That's
mode,
so
so
cute.
cute. Yeah.
How are you doing, Mabes? How was your stream? What were you up to?
Welcome, Raiders. Good to see you.
Aw, thank you so much, Mabes. That's so kind.
Oh.
Thank you so much for bringing your community over. I'm Tai Wai. host of the Aspec podcast, which Mabes has been featured on. Had a wonderful time chatting with Mabes back in, I guess it was last summer. Wow, time is flowing by. But
That's what I'm saying, right? Like, I can't believe it's
yeah,
been almost a year since we spoke too, even.
right?
Oh my God,
Yeah, I
date
can't
everything
believe.
and Fields of Mystery.
Hell yeah.
Raven.
Hell yeah. I do want to check both those games out. Raven gifted me Fields of Mysteria again. I literally have had no time to play it, and I'm like, I want to play this so much.
Listen, I have 100+ hours in that game. It is now my second most played game on Steam. I'm obsessed with Fields of Mystria.
Right?
Yeah, yeah. And also I've been playing the Date Everything. We were just talking about Date Everything actually a little bit ago. I've been loving it so much. So much queer rep in that game. In both games actually.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for rating today. So lovely to see
Aw.
y'all. I totally understand.
Yeah,
Go
enjoy your
have a
day.
lovely date. Thank you so much for rating. So lovely to see you again. Quartzy and I have been
Yeah.
chatting about um, demisexuality, chatting about how us aces and arrows love to reject societal norms around relationships. And
And we did
had
talk
some.
about Shania and the Arrow Ace
Absolutely.
Raid
We
Train as
had
well
a good,
too.
we were reliving all the amazing fun that we had in
Yeah.
the Shania's Ace and Arrow Raid Train last summer. Yeah, exactly. That is such a
Mm-hmm.
mood, Lore. Such a mood. So many games on the to be
That's
played list.
fair.
Mine just keeps growing and growing and growing. I have 4
Mm-hmm.
games that people have gifted to me on Steam that I have yet to touch, and I'm just like, when am I
No.
going to play them?
Oh.
Have the most
Rip and
wonderful
bits.
time, Mabes. So lovely to see you.
Mm-hmm.
And if it also goes for folks that joined in on the raid IRL before URL, please go take care of yourself. Go drink some water. Go touch grass. Do what you need
Drink
to
water.
do to take care of you first.
Mm-hmm. Most important self-care.
But we would love to have you as well if you would like to stick around and chat all things Demi, Ace, and relationships from a Aspec perspective.
Yeah.
That is also a mood because it's supposed to be disgustingly hot this weekend.
It was disgustingly hot today for me at least. And after the air's been on for about 4 or 5 hours, now it's just now starting to actually cool down. Like when we
Yeah,
started at 5 Eastern, I was sweating and I was like, I hope it really starts to kick in, but it finally has. And I'm like, wait, I'm not sweating anymore. That's
heck yeah.
lovely.
Somehow we managed in my area here to escape the
To
heat.
avoid it.
Like
Nice.
I think the drizzle just kind of kept it around like 69 heck yeah degrees today, and I'm like
Nice.
perfect temperature.
Yes.
But starting tomorrow, it's gonna be like
Heat wave.
well, I guess by Saturday, what's the temperature? 82 Saturday, 91 Sunday, 93 Fahrenheit by Monday, and it's gonna feel like
Oof.
104 on Monday. So no, thank you.
That's rough. It
And
was literally 80 in my house
that's
when we
gross.
started. Yeah, yeah, it was bad.
For those
It
of
was
you that
bad.
use Celsius like myself, 28 Celsius Saturday, 33 Celsius Sunday, 34 Celsius Monday. And it'll feel like 41 or 42 come Monday.
Rough.
No thanks. Really don't,
Mm-mm.
not looking forward to that at all. So
No, so stay cool, stay hydrated.
that's also why I am not going to stream the first half of next week because I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to touch this PC when it's that hot out.
So valid. Truly.
So we will be streaming the latter half of next week once it starts to cool down a little bit.
Hmm. I hope you get to play some of these games on
Me
your to
too.
be played list soon, because not having time for special interests is rough, you know? You don't want to burn out.
Exactly. I've had so much fun doing the podcast. I know that, these pride focused profiles will come to an end at the end of June, and we'll go back to more of a regular kind of, 1 to 2 times a month with a particular topic that we're going to focus on. I know that
Hmm.
Caber's really excited because they want to chat with me about kink in the asexual community.
Oh,
So I'm trying to round up a couple
that's
people to talk
interesting.
about kink in the ace community.
Wait, I'll be definitely interested in watching that episode.
Yeah,
I'm
so
I'm curious to hear what people have to say on
absolutely.
that.
There's a
Hmm.
lot of aces. There's a whole Discord devoted to uh, kink in the ace community, actually.
Wow, I had no idea about
Yeah.
that. Hmm. Good to know. Good to know.
So yeah, it's very popular. Actually, the person I was talking with last night mentioned that yeah, it's they know quite a few folks in the ace community that are in
Hmm.
the kink community as well.
Wow. Definitely
So
good to know.
yeah, it should be an interesting chat.
I mean, like, I have a lot of experience with fanfics in that situation. But yeah, I guess not as much IRL. At least not that I was like fully comfortable with, right?
Yeah,
So, because there
absolutely.
was a lot of, I know we talked about in the beginning, a lot of like past relationships that we may have like forced ourselves to be like okay
Mm-hmm.
with or comfortable with or like, go through because of certain expectations and stuff. So, um it's kind of difficult to know like what is authentically something that I enjoy versus what was something that I forced myself to
Mm-hmm.
be okay with
Mm-hmm.
for, that relationship, if that makes sense.
I completely agree on that. I have to agree
Yeah.
with that for sure. I know that the
'Cause
person last night was talking about kink. There's the fact that there's so many strict rules around it can
hmm
add, layers of safety that wouldn't otherwise be there. But it's
I
not for
do love
everyone.
that. Yeah. Like the idea of discussing things beforehand, having like hard and soft limits, having safe words and all of that stuff. And I do ultimately see how it can be a way to like really just deepen trust between two individuals, every time it's done so like in a healthy way, for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
Hmm.
I cut you off. I apologize. What were you we're going to talk about there?
No, I don't remember now.
It's always
No, I'm
like
sorry.
that. Always like that.
No, it's the
No.
ADHD experience. No, no,
Yeah.
no. It probably wasn't anything too super important. Um, but yeah, I guess I'm just it's been really awesome to talk about just some destigmatizing topics in the community, because I feel like there's just so many of us who don't even feel safe to explore these topics within themselves because it just doesn't feel okay. And I know that online there's a lot more openness about it than in IRL. So like I guess if I had to ask you, like, what can people who don't necessarily have IRL community maybe do, right? Like, because like as it stands right now for me, I mean, and maybe you also struggle with this. Like, I don't really have the ability to be super open about this in my IRL.
Hmm.
Um, as it stands right now, like most of my friends and close relationships are online, right? Like
Yeah.
when I was going through the discovery of unmasking my autism, let alone like embracing my queer journey, I lost like a lot of people who I thought were friends who didn't really have my best interest at heart, right? Once I stopped being like a huge people pleaser. And and I'm finding now that at least in the area that I live in, there's not really so many people who kind of identify similarly or are at least open or out about identifying similarly. So like what are is the online community like our only option right now? Like
So I
in
mean,
that
that's the
sense?
the online community is the first community I found. So
Yeah.
in large part, I came to learn a lot about my own identity through the Aces in STEM Discord and Sarah
Mm.
Cosgriff, who is an absolutely wonderful ACE activist and also SciComm presenter. Uh, Definitely go give Sarah Cosgriff a follow. They're
Mm-hmm.
fantastic. They started a Discord called Aces in STEM for folks who are studying science, math, engineering, and technology related fields, and who
I love
also happen to
that.
be ACE. And I have met so many wonderful people through that community, and I've learned so much about myself through Discords like that. So I would
Mm-hmm.
say Discord is great. There's so many wonderful Ace Discords, Arrow Discords. Not as many Arrow ones, but there's Arrow Apocalypse for folks that are interested in joining and fairly sizable Arrow Discord. But yeah, there's tons and tons of Ace ones. And so Discord is really where I started. And
Yeah.
then from there, I expanded outwards and found the IRL communities here, which I'm very lucky to have because I know that they don't exist everywhere.
Mm.
And it's so
And
unfortunate.
maybe they do exist near me, but I don't have a car right now, so I guess it's kind
There's
of tough
that
to get
too.
to certain
Exactly.
places, right?
There's that
I'm
too.
sure if I went to New York City, which is within a day's travel for me, like I could probably find more of a community there, possibly. But at least in my hometown, I don't. I live in a blue state, but I live in a red county, if that makes sense. So I don't think it's as
Yeah,
accepting in
absolutely.
my direct town. But I'm sure we exist somewhere. I mean, I'm here, so
Yeah, absolutely. I
there's
bet
got to be at least
there's got to
one
be one
other.
more. I bet there's got to be
Yeah.
at least one more ace somewhere. But yeah, let me link Sarah Cosgriff's Blue
Yeah,
Sky
please.
because they're fantastic. They're really lovely.
And I
They
discovered also Avon through you, and then, you know, was very honored when they gave me a follow after they gave you a follow
right?
after
Yeah,
that yeah, after our last
yeah,
podcast episode.
exactly.
And I get a lot of resources through them as well now.
Yeah, absolutely. I see so many great posts they're reposting and sharing on Blue Sky and the other socials. So there's actually a are you aware that there's a an ace an arrow list
Oh,
on Blue Sky?
no, like a starter pack?
Yeah, I think it's a starter
Or
pack. Let
is it
me
a
see.
list?
I don't know. Let me see.
If I'm being honest, I only know about starter packs on Blue Sky. If there's a thing called lists, I'm not. I'm still learning Blue Sky.
Yeah, let me see if I can. Is there a way to share this? No, but
Hmm.
it's called the. It's like a might be an asexual spectrum starter pack. But what's really funny is it will look for any time that the word ace is mentioned, and so that
Mm-hmm.
often leads to a whole bunch of baseball posts appearing because they're always talking about the ace in the hole and the
No!
and it's just like, why are there so many baseball posts? That's not what we're talking
No!
about here.
Yeah, that's not what we mean. That's so funny. But unfortunate, yeah.
And then for some
The
reason
overlap.
there's a ACE aircraft, and so it picks up this like flight log for the ACE aircraft
Oh my
a lot of the time.
goodness.
So
Like, no, please. We have trouble enough finding each other. Don't do it. Don't do us like that.
but yeah,
That's
that's
funny.
there's that I think it might be a starter pack. But
I'll
definitely
definitely look into
definitely
that.
go give Sarah Cosgriff a follow on Blue Sky. They do some amazing work.
I will say, I want to like look this up to make sure I'm spelling their name properly, but I know that there's this one game dev. Yeah, it's Radiant G on Blue Sky. They create a few different starter packs for Ace game decks, asexual creatives. Let me see. I found it really
Oh, hell
quickly.
yeah. Share that with me and I'll post it.
Um, yeah. Share link. Copy. I'll send it to you on a Discord because
Perfect.
that was a cool one to see. I was like, heck yeah. We need more game devs to know about and other creatives. There it is.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Following.
Yeah, I adore them. And they're huge into Pokemon too, so. But they have a lot of starter packs for queer comic book creators, trans artist animators, um, disabled game developers,
Oh, hell yeah.
marginalized. Yeah, like their starter packs are peak, honestly. But they do have that one specifically for asexual creatives, which I think I know I'm on one of their starter packs. I don't know if it's that one or not. But yeah, they're very cool. And they do a lot of like TTRPG stuff.
There are so many Ace and other queer folks I know that do TTRPG. It seems like the Venn diagram between
Is
the
a
queer
circle.
community and the TTRPGs is almost a complete circle.
100%. And I mean, not to delve too far off track, but TTRPGs was one of the first places I discovered my own autism, and also like my Fae identity, honestly.
Yeah,
I played a character who was from the Feywild, and I was like, why do I feel like I'm not acting? Like I was just being my character, but it was really just me, and I was like, oh shit, there's a little bit this is hitting too close to home right now. So that was a fun thing to discover.
somebody else in the Ace and Arrow Raid Train last year mentioned something almost identical. The way they figured out
Really?
they were um, um, non-binary and I think eventually agender uh, was through
D&D.
D&D. Exactly.
That's so cool. I love that it's helped so many of us. And I think that's also like not to dive too off topic, but that's like one of the reasons why I kind of like identify as Faye. It's part of that like autistic experience of like not feeling human and not feeling like part of this planet because it's just like I'm just, my identity in many aspects has never been like accepted or even able to be explored, whether that be through my sexuality, my romantic preferences, my gender identity, just my, I don't know, brain. So you run two games and play in four. Do you have any tips for somebody
Wow.
who wants to DM but is like really scared of imposter syndrome around DMing? Because I
And
really want to DM.
Laura didn't mention they're also a PhD student. So,
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. Future doctor.
so
Lots of tips. Yeah, because I think my biggest struggle with D&D is like there's so many rules and so many different classes and characters and like things to remember and I'm like, what if I get something wrong? Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I'll give you a follow.
it's fun
And good
hanging
luck on
out.
your journey.
Yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
fun hanging out in Laura's streams. They're always really lovely to hang out. I mean, we can just vent about how much we both hate the structures of academia. So usually when I'm there, it just devolves into us venting about academia, but it's also just really fun to be in chat with them.
Aw, I bet it's nice to have somebody else in the Twitch community who kind of understands that aspect of like your life because there's not too many people going for their PhDs that I know of, right? Whether that be due to financial costs or lack of desire. No, I don't mean to say that, but like, yeah, it's just it's amazing, and I'm sure like an uphill battle, right, in and of itself.
Yeah, I mean, there's many days where the last thing I want to be doing is writing scripts, so I'd much rather be hanging out in chat.
Yeah. No, but it'll be worth it in the end.
Yeah.
Aw, always love having you. Aw. Listen, a healthy distraction every now and
Yeah,
then
exactly.
is good.
Absolutely. That's what I've come to realize. That's why I
Mhm.
dropped down to part-time status in my PhD, because it's allowed me to not feel guilty about not putting in, you know, more than full-time hours like, they expect
Mhm.
PhDs to. Now I have the permission to say, no, I just don't have the energy to do this today.
Yeah, I mean, especially like even if, you didn't identify disabled, but especially like as disabled folk, like spoons are limited, right?
Mm-hmm.
Spoons are absolutely limited and it's okay to accommodate yourself, however you need. And I'm proud of you for doing that and recognizing what was best for you, honestly.
Yeah. And it's meant that I don't every summer break down into like a burnt out, depressed shell of myself.
And you're still so busy though. Like every time you tell me that like everything you're doing, you're still so busy despite, so I can't imagine how it was before, like how it would be even possible to function at all. So,
Yeah, but
yeah.
I would feel guilty because I was not putting in the full-time hours. Now I have
Mm.
the permission. I give myself that permission, and
Mm.
I don't make myself feel guilty if I don't, you know, achieve the what the university tells me I have to every single day.
Yeah, those like societal standards exist even beyond, right? Like the, queer community, it exists in so many different facets of our life, like in the workforce as well. I know I've talked about it with you, Ty, but like I didn't, I didn't even go for like a higher education degree really. Like I had my just bachelor's, well, like a postgraduate rather level. I got my bachelor's and that took me 6 years. So, and it's supposed to be done in four.
Hey, it took
So
me
like
6 years for my undergrad.
yeah, and I think that's okay. At the end of the day, it hasn't helped me find a job yet. So, um, I think that's mostly the field that I chose, though. Nobody needs writers these days. But either way, I think it's okay to do things at your own pace and, excuse my French, but F what society says on timelines and stuff like that. People
Hmm.
would lead you to believe that you're old at 30, and that is not true. Like, I feel my best self now, honestly.
Same. 30s
Um,
have been the best time of my life.
yeah, I'll be 32 this year and I feel more myself than I ever have, and I think that's important is to just feel okay and feel happy and feel good.
I'm fast approaching the big 4-0 though, so that's the scary part.
Really?
Yeah.
I would never have
Yeah,
guessed.
38 this year.
Wow. Listen, I think that that's so fine though, whatever pace is happy for you to live life at is the pace that's right for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy
Mhm.
30s. Hell yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes. Happy 30s. Love it. Love it so, so much.
How are you doing? We're 2 hours in now. I can't believe it.
I know, that flew by. We've been yapping.
We
I'm
have.
fine. I'm trying to think like if there's anything else on this list that we have. We talked about Aspec media
Yeah.
representation.
We've talked a lot about, we didn't use the term, but we've talked a lot about, amatonormativity and allonormativity and how it feeds into the various struggles we deal with day in, day out with relationships. Um,
Mm-hmm. What is I know allonormativity, right?
yeah.
What so amatonormativity, the assumption that everyone desires a coupled romantic and monogamous relationship.
Yeah. And all the bullshit that goes along with the relationship
Yeah.
escalator and the assumptions of you will find somebody eventually and all those horrible things that people continue to say to us.
Mm.
That's a
I
meta-normativity.
guess I guess in terms of like the allonormativity and the amatonormativity, like going into past relationships before I knew that I was ace, because I feel like like having the knowledge of what I am has given me a certain amount of like power in choosing that, my relationships now that I didn't have then, right? Like before I had the knowledge and tools and language to describe what I was feeling, I was just kind of like fumbling through relationships and not really understanding why they didn't work out. But there was a lot of expectation in past relationships to have kids, to like move in together right away, to, engage in sexual activities really early on, to go on a certain number of like date. Like there's just so many expectations that, like to meet family, to like all this stuff. And I'm not saying I'm against all these things, but there were a lot of times where it happened like at a much faster pace than I was ever comfortable with. And again, there's a lot of overlap, there's a lot of nuance. I have a lot of my own individual struggles with like, gender relate not relationship dysphoria, dysmorphia, body dysmorphia, where even separate from my asexuality and demisexuality, I have issues with like how I view myself. So in order to like feel comfortable enough to be seen that vulnerably by anybody and feel safe doing so, and I don't want to necessarily go like too heavily into like, you know, I have a certain amount of trauma around, sexual situations that has made it really hard for me to like trust. And that has been a problem in like every single relationship I've had before my current one, where people thought that it was either like me not liking them, right? Like them thinking that I just wasn't attracted to them at all, or like didn't like them, or that my level of expression was not enough for them to feel secure in the relationship. Um, and I can't tell you how many like arguments that I've gotten into where I didn't really understand how to describe like what I was feeling. I just had to convince them like, no, like I care and like I'm happy and I'm content. But I wasn't. I think I was convincing myself, but I think I was more so happy and content with the level of affection that I was displaying with them, but they weren't. And there was like that friction and that tension because they expected a lot more than what I was comfortably able to give. And there was like a lot of difficulty in that, I think.
Absolutely. I totally can relate on so many levels with that.
Mm.
You kind of try to fumble your way through these relationships because that's what you're told you're supposed to do. And
Yeah.
if they don't seem to work out for whatever reason, you're kind of left like, what is going on? And it's really hard to figure out. And for me, it didn't really start to make sense until looked at it retroactively after, ending the one and only kind of, whatever, what society would deem as like a more traditional,
Yeah.
relationship, and realizing there were a lot of things that I didn't pick up on that I should have clued into much sooner.
It can be difficult, like if you're someone who has either delayed processing or just didn't necessarily have the ability to self-reflect in that way at the
No,
time.
I didn't.
It's Yeah, so it's so hard. Like how could you know in the moment, right? Especially when society is only giving you that one option of what is supposed to be expected, and there's a whole level of like shame, right? Like that
Mm-hmm.
comes along with not living up to those standards, so to speak. And I think it's just super liberating once you are able to understand that you're not broken for feeling this way, that it
Hell
is a
yes.
whole community of people. And for people who don't understand, like I need to stress like this is a matter of like saving lives and mental health like advocacy, because to push people into a corner where they're forcing themselves to be something they're not, it just leads to so much chronic anxiety and depression and like internalized shame. Whereas like to accept ourselves as our authentic self, as Demi, as Ace, as Arrow, like it is liberating, and it is like taking the blinders off. I don't know, like, so to speak. I don't, that's probably not the best word to use, but like it is like freeing ourselves from the chains of society that have weighed us down. And I don't know. It's just so harmful to be forced into that corner. So I think that's another problem that I have with like, forcing people to become parents when they're not necessarily ready to or haven't even like self-identified themselves because they're pushing these expectations onto their kids when they don't even know what it means for them yet, a lot of the times. And it can be very harmful, you know?
Absolutely. Trying to figure out how the pieces fit together, only to know that you're trying to fit the piece into the wrong puzzle.
Exactly.
The the way that I experience, the way that Aspecs experience the world is just different. The relationships that Aspecs have are different, and that's
hmm
perfectly okay. It's just
That's so okay.
society doesn't agree, but they're wrong. They are the ones who are wrong.
I mean, they've been wrong about like society
Yeah,
has been wrong about so much before, and it's
absolutely.
like it's another thing that we're easily able to see in retrospect and in hindsight. So, is it that wild to say that it can be wrong again, right? No, I don't
Mm-hmm.
think so. I mean, we thought the world was flat at one point, right? So, I mean, some people still think that even. So,
Real. What does
um,
Ace Pride mean to you?
Ace Pride means mental health support. Honestly,
Hell
like I
yes.
was saying, it means self-acceptance. It means releasing fear to live one's authentic self. It means community. It means liberation, like I said earlier, and it just means accepting ourselves and living as our authentic self. Like I talk about unmasking a lot as an autistic person, as someone who was highly masking and still struggles with it, right, in a lot of aspects. Um, and how negatively it has impacted me and just put me in a state of like shame, fear, depression, and even into some dangerous coping mechanisms in the past. But having that pride in myself as a demisexual person who now accepts that that's okay to be demisexual and not to have to be sex repulsed ace, right? Um, it has allowed me to work through a lot of my own trauma around sex in general and kind of like take my own autonomy back even and it has allowed me to connect with so many amazing people who are sharing their stories and their experiences and their perspective. And the more that I see how nuanced the A-Spec umbrella is, the more it helps me feel better about, my own identity, honestly. And I love seeing that representation um in all different sides of people, like all different corners of the worlds, because it doesn't exist in any one place, it's everywhere. And it's cool to see it in more and more spaces that you wouldn't necessarily expect. And it definitely makes you feel less alone.
Hell yes. Wonderful, wonderful answer. Absolutely.
Thanks. And thank you again for just doing this podcast. It has helped me learn so much about myself. It has helped me, have the tools and language to help educate others as well, and just kind of destigmatize and normalize these conversations. So it's so important what you do, and I'm really grateful that you take spoons out of your day and time out of your already busy schedule to do this.
I enjoy
So thank
doing it.
you.
It brings
Yeah.
me all sorts of joy. So this is how I experience Ace and Arrow Pride. This is one big
hmm
way. That and running the support group.
I love that. I love that so much. And I think it's awesome you've been able to find some IRL community. And I hope that for everyone. But in the meantime, if you don't have IRL community, like we mentioned earlier, there are so many online resources available now, more than there ever has been. So I think that the more we do continue to normalize these conversations, the more resources like this will continue to pop up. So that's awesome.
Absolutely. We are,
hmm
unfortunately, I've snoozed the ads so many times at this point.
Yeah, we're coming up on
We're
them. That's
coming up on
okay.
it. So maybe this is a good point to see who's live for
Yeah,
a
let's
raid.
see.